You've seen the images from Gaza, millions of people displaced, trapped in a war zone, facing a humanitarian catastrophe. And looking at a map, a simple logical question comes to mind. Why don't the neighboring Arab countries just open their borders and let them in? Egypt is right there. Jordan is a short drive away. Wealthy Gulf states have vast resources. We hear their leaders give fiery speeches at the UN, condemning Israel and declaring unwavering solidarity with the Palestinian people. So why are the borders sealed shut? The official answer you'll hear from Arab leaders is a moral one. They'll say that accepting refugees would be helping Israel carry out ethnic cleansing, and that it would undermine the Palestinian right of return to their ancestral homes. Egyptian President Sisi said that displacing Palestinians is an injustice that we cannot take part in. It sounds principled, but it's only a small part of a much darker and more cynical story. The real reason the borders are sealed isn't found in today's headlines. It was decided 77 years ago, and it's a story of brutal suppression, political calculation, and outright betrayal. The story begins in 1948, with the creation of Israel and the displacement of around 700,000 Palestinians. This was the moment the Arab world had a choice: integrate these refugees as brothers and sisters, or do something else. They chose something else. The Arab League made a calculated decision to keep the refugees in temporary camps. The idea was to use them as a political weapon against Israel. Don't just take my word for it. In 1959, a Lebanese delegate to the UN put it plainly: "It is in order that the Palestinians shall not be forgotten that we oppose their resettlement." This wasn't just a suggestion. It became official policy. The 1965 Casablanca Protocol declared that Arab nations should not grant Palestinian citizenship in order to protect their right to return. In other words, they weaponized statelessness. They created the world's longest-running refugee crisis on purpose. Those temporary camps now hold nearly 6 million people, the children and grandchildren of the original refugees, living in a state of permanent limbo. Now, you might think this was a passive policy, but what happened when Palestinians tried to build their own power base inside these Arab countries? The so-called solidarity vanished, replaced by shocking violence. The most brutal example is Jordan's Black September in 1970. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, or PLO, had become so powerful in Jordan that it was acting like a state within a state, threatening King Hussein's throne. So the king's army surrounded the Palestinian refugee camps and unleashed hell. They killed between 10 and 15,000 Palestinians and left up to 100,000 homeless. They leveled entire camps with artillery. As one Jordanian official later said, "We had to choose between the Palestinians and our throne." By 1971, every last Palestinian fighter was expelled from the country. And it wasn't just Jordan. In 1991, after the PLO disastrously backed Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait, the Kuwaiti royal family exacted its revenge. Despite Palestinians having lived and worked in Kuwait for decades, helping build the modern state, they were declared fifth columnists. Over the course of a few months, Kuwait expelled 400,000 Palestinians. 200,000 were forcibly deported, and another 200,000 who had fled the war were simply denied the right to return. A wealthy oil state chose ethnic cleansing over integration, and in Lebanon, it's a system of permanent apartheid. For 77 years, Lebanon has refused to grant citizenship to Palestinians. They are legally barred from owning property and banned from working in over 70 professions, including as doctors and lawyers. They're locked out of a normal life by law. The hypocrisy becomes even clearer when you follow the money. We hear Arab leaders pledge billions to the Palestinian cause. The reality? They barely pay. An analysis of $40 billion in aid to Palestinians since 1994 shows that Western nations, the US and Europe, provided 77% of it. All the Arab states combined provided less than a quarter. In one year, 2004, Arab states pledged nearly $1 billion. They delivered just over 100 million. That's a 90% failure rate. Today, the biggest funders of UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, are the United States and the European Union. Wealthy Gulf states who demand the world stand with Palestine let the West pay the bills to keep the refugee camps running, which brings us back to today and the sealed border in Gaza. While the world watched the crisis unfold, Egypt was busy spending millions of dollars on a new project. Satellite images from 2024 revealed they were building a massive high-security fortress in the Sinai Desert right next to Gaza, complete with 7-meter-high concrete walls. They even deployed tanks and armored vehicles, not to help, but to make sure not a single refugee could cross. The message couldn't be clearer. Egypt would rather spend millions on a wall to keep Palestinians out than a fraction of that to let them in. So why do Arab countries refuse Gaza's refugees? It's not for a lack of space, it's not for a lack of money, and it's not truly about protecting the right of return. It's because for 77 years, the suffering of the Palestinian people has been one of the most useful political tools in the Arab world. Keeping them stateless, keeping them in camps, and keeping them dependent is a strategy. It allows Arab leaders to deflect from their own problems, to rally their people against a common enemy, and to put constant political pressure on Israel. The greatest tragedy of the Palestinian people is not just their conflict with Israel. It is the cold, calculated decision by their Arab brethren to preserve them as a people in perpetual crisis. They are pawns in a political game they did not choose, and for them, the solidarity is only ever rhetoric, and the borders are always closed.